everybody, and welcome to a brand new sort of series. As I mentioned in previous art videos, due to years of trying to make money off of art, most of my art nowadays I've decided to just be things that I really like doing. And anybody who knows me knows that I have tons of OCs and stories running through my head at all times, so that's what this is. This is going to be slowly introducing some of my favorite OCs, going through a little bit of their backstory, and talking probably a little bit about the art style too. So first up, this is not actually my character, but rather a character I sort of adopted. This is from one of my friend's stories, and it's Victorian England, but yeah, I just sort of adopted this character and kind of is responsible for most of the development. Art little notes here. I started out with my little bodycoon figures, trying to make Lord Bradford and his butler as if like he was walking and picking up packages. But then I was like, I need references for the clothing, and with both of them, I liked the position that the clothing was in, the people that were wearing the clothing, better than my original thing. So I totally redid the sketch of both of these. But anyways, Lord Bradford and Alexander. So one of the most tragic characters as far as it is honestly surprised that they're both still going together and going strong, because man oh man, they've been through a whole lot. Lord Bradford, when he was 11, had his entire family killed by a group of assassins called Solstice. His father was a detective and getting very close to uncovering the Solstice hideout, so they just took him out to prevent them being found. Lord Bradford, though, 11 years old, ended up taking over his father's job and finishing out that, and ever since then was kind of marked by Solstice after that. Alexander is a super good fighter who actually used to be the best fighter in Solstice, sort of ninja, but ended up leaving mostly due to one of his mentors that left also, and also is marked by Solstice because he was in it and he left and they feel betrayed by him. So they have this super powerful group of assassins that goes around and tries to kill them all the time. And they have been through so much. I hear, like, with our characters, their favorite ones, what we tend to do is just set them up and then throw rocks at them and watch what they do. So, yeah, poor Lord Bradford. He started out as being kind of an arrogant brat, but over the course of it ended up being a lot better. And Alexander, really, he got a lot better too. He's very protective and cares about his family a lot. Coloring wise, well, I'll mention a little bit about the inking too. So my general method when I'm doing characters, especially with Copics, I like to sketch them out first, and then I will ink them through once, and then I will erase everything. And normally when you erase it, the inking gets, a little bit less pronounced, so I go back through with the inking again and add some line weight to it. And then after that, it's on to the coloring. And I have a fairly good supply of Copic, but it's not amazing, so I have to get creative, especially with, like, Lord Bradford's hair there. I think I use 5 different colors, and I use a lot of the warm grays in order to tone it down a bit and make it not quite so saturated. I was really pleased with what I was able to do with the coat. I wanted it to be sort of like a lightish navy blue, if that's a thing. So I used the cool grays, and then I went over it with one of the blue colors, and then back over with the gray too. I was just so happy with Lord Bradford's coat there. Another interesting thing about my characters, and just most people's OCs that I found in general, is we tend to give them color palettes and color schemes. I don't know if actual people do. I think people do in a way too. But Lord Bradford's color scheme has always been blue. One of his defining things is he acts a little bit like a peacock sometimes, and he has peacock blue colored eyes. So he wears a lot of blue, and that just seems to be his color scheme. Alexander, having the black hair there, being a ninja, black is his color scheme. And tailcoats, because tailcoats are awesome. Seriously, tailcoats are really, really awesome. So yeah. Have to go over it several times. The shoes were a lot of fun too, making those little shoe shines. And then for the background here, I really didn't want to use up that much Copic, so I ended up just using some watercolor. Because watercolor is cheaper and goes a lot longer than Copic ink. And I kind of gave them each their own blue color. Didn't want to do black for Alexander. And yeah, so there it is. There's my little signature. It's my initials layered over each other. Makes me happy. I was really happy with the way Lord Bradford turned out. Not completely happy with the way Alexander turned out, but he's not as much my character as my friend's character in that. Alrighty, and now on to the second part of it. This is going to be Lord Bradford with Elizabeth Berkeley. So, of course, Lord Bradford started out as a 12-year-old, but he grew up and he eventually got married, and then sadly his wife died in childbirth, and Miss Berkeley here is probably going to be his second wife in the story. She has a very interesting backstory to herself too. She was a missionary's daughter to China, which is where Solstice is located, is in China, ninja background and all. Because she had this beautiful blonde hair, she got pretty early on picked out by Solstice and captured. And, I mean, if you're an adult, you know what that probably meant. So she's been through a whole lot. And probably one of the only people that could understand Lord Bradford with all he's been through. And he's probably one of the only people that can understand her well. So they make a really good pair. And she is his governess. He has 3 children. And yeah, just ended up being a wonderful one. He wanted somebody that could speak Chinese because he's fluent in Chinese. And he actually, on one of his ventures over to China, ended up making really good friends with this little Chinese boy. Well, not a boy anymore, about his age, but they're grown up now, but he still acts like a little boy. And just wanted someone that understood Chinese so that she could interact with the whole household. Also, Alexander ended up adopting a little Chinese girl, so yeah. And originally, I was just going to do these two and make it like Lord Bradford with his butler as one illustration, and then Lord Bradford with his lady he's courting. But I went away from this picture for almost a month, actually, and then came back to it, and I was like, oh, I really want to draw his children. I really want to draw chibis. So I drew each of Lord Bradford's children. And this first one here is Julia. This is the one that, the youngest one. This is the one that his wife died in childbirth of her. His wife's name actually was Julia. And when she died, the last thing she said was, I love you, and can you please name her Julia so you will always remember me? Feels. And then these other two, these are the twins. So his first set was twins, and this is Eric and Erica. And Eric is seriously like just a little clone of his father, and he acts so much like his father. It's so adorable. And pretty much Eric and Erica, both in visuals, took after Lord Bradford, and then Julia took after her mother. And then over here, I finished the 3 children, and I was like, I really want to draw the whole family. I want Julia in this picture. So this sort of ended up looking like a ghost. I didn't mean it to look like a ghost, but I wanted to draw her sort of like in the background, sort of faded, to show that that's what he was, and that's what his family was. That's a part of it that is very important and lovely, but it did pass through, and I wanted to draw her smiling at the new group because she's happy that he's found another someone too. I do feel like husbands and wives, the one that dies and goes to heaven probably does feel really happy if and when their partner can find love again. So I wanted to draw her looking at this, glad that her family is happy, essentially. And I didn't mean it to look like a ghost, but it kind of ended up looking like a ghost. I don't know. Very similar on skin tones. I rarely do anything with skin tones. Brown hair again. And you can see Eric's hairstyle is almost identical to his father. Eric actually tends to just wear a lot of the same things his father does because he really looks up to and values his father. Erica is a sweet, adorable little girl that is happy almost all the time. Thankfully, the children have not been through the amount of hardship that the father has. Julia actually, kind of sad with her. So it was soon after, her mother died in childbirth, and Lord Bradford actually had so hard of a time with that passing that for about the first year of Julia's life, he just didn't see her for the most part. He could not bring himself to see her, partially because she did end up looking quite a bit like her mother, and it took him a long time to be able to deal with it. And for that reason, unfortunately, she hasn't had a whole lot of character development, so I don't know a lot about Julia yet. She has green eyes like her mother did, and I ended up giving Julia a green color scheme because the thing that defined her as far as the color scheme was when Lord Bradford first saw her, he just was like, green is a beautiful color, isn't it, Alexander? I think it's one of the prettiest colors ever. And he was like, where is this coming from? And then ended up looking over and seeing, oh, this girl in a green dress. My lord, I do believe you are starting to like women. You were growing up. And it was really sweet and really kind of cheesy and funny. Elizabeth got a blue color scheme too. It just seems to fit with her. I had a lot of fun coloring the dresses too. Elizabeth's hair though, I can get pretty creative with brown hair, and I've done brown hair a lot to figure out it. This was one of my first times doing blonde hair, and I have like 3 yellowish Copics. So it was so difficult for me. I am sort of happy with how it turned out, but it turned out a lot more yellow blonde, warm blonde than I wanted. I sort of wanted her to be like cool platinum blonde type of color because she has a cool skin tone, so, and mainly the only reason she has a cool skin tone is so that I can cosplay her, because I have a cool skin tone. That was fun though. I decided on his vest it was going to be gray, but I decided, since colors tend to reflect off of each other, to, on the side with the blue dress, just give a little bit of a hint of the blue on it as well. So I did a very soft layer, just one on that side, and then put some blue over top of it, and then the rest of the vest has 2 layers of the gray Copic. And then, yeah, this section was probably the most difficult color scheme, because like I said, and I tested it out beforehand because I wanted to be very certain. I wanted to give her a green tone, but I didn't want it to be overpowering. I didn't want it to be very bright, so I was going to use gray for the most part. And her hair there, it's brown. It was pretty much the same color as Lord Bradford's, but I wanted it to not be quite as saturated, I guess. So I just tried to use a lot of the gray, put a little bit of green on, and use the gray to blend them. But I kept on going back and forth between, oh, it's too gray, oh, it's too green, oh, it's too gray, oh, it's too green. I probably put way more layers on that than it needed. But yeah, right there, it's too green, and then I'm going to put a whole bunch of gray on it, and now it's too gray, or all that. And then I tried to sort of gray down her skin tone a little bit, make it not as saturated, and then that's when she ended up looking like a ghost. And then same thing with the background, and I ended up giving a color for each of them. Lord Bradford and his son actually got the same color blue. Miss Barkley got a different color blue. Julia got like this bluish green color. I barely had any of the pink there, and this was interesting because I was very much trying to avoid the area around Erica, but yeah. And then she got more of a yellowy apple green. But yeah, this ended up being one of my favorite pictures overall, though. Because just, I don't know, it's so cute in comparison, all the children. And it's really neat to think of that side of Lord Bradford as a father, because we don't really go over it that much. Oh, and the book that they're reading is the Bible, because she's a missionary's daughter, which really helps this family out a lot too. And there it is. So thank you for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this, and stay tuned for more videos like this in the future. And bye everyone. Have a wonderful day.